Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be discussing a very important topic, of course, that relates to the security situation of the country. And of course, the Chief of Army Staff, General Syed Munir, he has vowed to preserve the peace of the land. Yesterday, the Chief of Army Staff, General Syed Munir, visited Peshawar, where he was briefed on the prevailing security situation and the ongoing counter-terrorism efforts. The briefing was also attended by the Federal Interior Minister Mehmood and the Chief Minister Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Ali Amin Gandapur. The Chief of Army Staff praised the unwavering resolve and unmatched sacrifices in light of the ongoing counter-terrorism efforts, and also made it clear that any attempt to disrupt the peace of the nation will be met with decisive force. Of course, in light of the ongoing intelligence-based operations that have been going on in the country, and these very successful intelligence-based operations as they result in, of course, the elimination of Fitna al-Khawarij, and they continue on a daily basis, resulting in effective neutralization of the terrorist threat, and of course are a testament to the security forces and the law enforcement agencies' determination to wipe out the scourge from the country. The Chief of Army Staff also separately interacted with politicians of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa belonging to different political parties, where the participants resolved consensus on the need of a unified approach against the scourge of terrorism. We'll be deliberating on the different topics regarding the Chief of Army Staff's visit to Peshawar yesterday and his interaction with the different political leaders of various political parties, and of course how a unified political approach and a unified approach is the need of the hour to, of course, address this security issue. In the studios, we have been joined by Dr. Shafqat Munir, who is a security analyst. Along with that, we have been joined by Major General retired Zahid Mehmood, who is a senior analyst. And, of course, on Skype, we'll be joined later on by Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, who is a security analyst. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Starting from General Syed Namood, of course, at this critical juncture, when there's so much efforts for political revitalization, for economic revitalization to, of course, ensure political stability in the country, and as we're seeing the economic trajectory coming from various national and international agencies, they're showing positive trends for Pakistan's economy. And of course, the security threat that we see will hamper that economic momentum that we've gained. How important do you think a political consensus and political unity is at this time when we talk about the security issue prevailing in the country?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rafae, thank you very much for the invite. Of course, the kinetic part of any operation or any strategy, especially in this domain of hybrid war and this whatever is being, applied on us, this proxy war plus state-sponsored terrorism which is coming from India through Afghanistan. So I always maintain that the kinetic part of the response is not more than 30 to 40%. So the rest of response has to come from the political leadership, that is in the fields of the socio-economic and political development of that area. Unfortunately, we have had a bad history, just after the National Action Plan, especially after 2014. So where the clear, hold and build part of the operations were done. The first two parts which were clear and hold, they were done immaculately, and a lot of sacrifice was made. But unfortunately, the development part, the build part, that was missing. So from there we must understand that this war, especially the war on terrorism, has to be led by the political leadership, the leadership of Pakistan. So military is one part of that. So that's the importance. So unless the federal government and the provincial government, they don't own the war, they don't take the responsibility, we are going nowhere. And in this hybrid war, Rafae, the biggest issue is that the target is every citizen of Pakistan. So his will is the target and his hope in the state is the target. So he's looking towards the leadership of all the segments of the society, especially the political leadership, and all those who are heading different organizations. So one has to craft a national strategy by adopting whole of a nation approach, So that is the only way out, and there's no other choice with us. So probably we need to sit together, and the visit of Chief of Army Staff, I think this was the most critical time, especially if we see the application which is coming from Afghanistan. And he was sitting in Peshawar. There is a political instability in Pakistan, lot of debates going on, and then there's a lot of despondency in Pakistan, especially in our youth. So Now once they will see that their military leadership and all the political leadership, irrespective of their political affiliation, once they are sitting together, this indicate that whole world is seeing us, you know.
Definitely.
And this also indicates that we have the capacity and capability to sit together and give a united front, a national front to this menace. Otherwise, we are going nowhere. I think this is very positive, and we should work further on this, you know. And this can be a very good beginning. We should not be, you know, succumb to the baggage of the past. We must learn from the past. Continue with your political struggles. Keep your affiliations. That is good for the democracy in Pakistan. But once this united front is required against this war on terrorism, there shouldn't be any other thinking on this.
Definitely. Very articulate with your views. I'd like to include Dr. Shafqat in the conversation as well with regards to his views. Of course, when we talk about the security situation and the political environment, as General Zahid also mentioned, of course, national interest over politics. How do you see that in these times?
I think if you talk about the real politics, that starts from national interest and that ends at national interest. And that is why the political forums are the real forum where things are settled. And particularly when we look at the history of terrorism, not only in Pakistan, if you look at in regional other parts, in South Asia, in Sri Lanka, we have seen insurgency. And ultimately, the political forces, along with their armed forces, defeated the menace of terrorism. Similarly, not going beyond, even within Pakistan's example, terrorism 1.0, that was all defeated by all the national players. All the nation was behind the armed forces. Earlier, as Jan Saab mentioned, kinetic and non-kinetic, both measures were taken. Even people were taken on board. Even those who were, recovered, the terrorists who were recovered within the hideouts, and when their hideouts were smashed, they were not killed. They were taken to the rehabilitation center, and they were, and you know, there was some analysis done. I was also part of these kind of studies where we have seen how the psychology of these people who were fetched by these elements to terrorism. And then the rehabilitation was done in a way that at least they should not go back to their terrorism business, but they should come back to the society or reintegrate into the overall society. But what happened later on, because you know, our enemy is also working side by side. They do not want to see Pakistan progressing in a way. So through Afghanistan, another proxy started. So that second term, we rightly analyze that without India's hand, this could not be that strengthened from the Afghan soil. And that is why we have been asking our Taliban, those who are in Kabul, that they should come to their promises and they should not be used by another third party against Pakistan. And that's why there is again the real time that they should realize it. Now the second terrorism 2.0, again the same tactics are being used, and now with a kinetic force, things are sorted out. Even we have seen over a few weeks, lot of hideouts have been smashed, many terrorists killed. Again, that's with the resolve we are coming up with these operations. And side by side, the counter-violent extremism, other measures which are soft measures, they are also in place. So that's why we are moving ahead. Now it should be very clear that our enemy was thinking that if there is some political differences on the political horizon, they would be in the counterproductive to Pakistan. But I think that's not the case. Politics is different. Political differences are beauty of democracy.
Definitely.
And that's why our parties are doing that. That's their thing. But whenever there is a national cause, quote the example of when first National Action Plan 2014 was there, then there was many other operations were there. And then, there was a national narrative, Paigam-e-Pakistan came up. All these struggles are behind. And now we are moving with this zeal and decisively as the army has pledged to root it out. So Definitely. I think we are again on the right direction where we are having carrot and stick both. But this time I think stick is better option at the moment, then again the carrot will be working.
Definitely, of course, and I will delve into detail in this issue of cross-border terrorism, as it is one of the biggest issue with regards to the security concerns of not just Pakistan but the region at large. But I'd like to include comments from Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, who has now joined us on Skype. Dr. Shabana, as we were talking about and how the conversation has shaped up so far, we were talking about political unity at this critical time, of course, and at a time when Pakistan has time and time again reiterated upon the Afghan interim authorities as well to take action against those hostile elements using Afghan soil to carry out attacks on Pakistan and the neighbouring region. Of course, the army chief met with the political leadership in Peshawar yesterday of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and a unified approach was reiterated to, of course, with regards to the security situation and upholding the peace of the country. How critical do you think this comes at this time? And of course, the unified approach that the political leadership of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has reiterated.
You have yourself explained the very complexity of the situation and the time that Pakistan is going through. We are in a stage that where the terrorist attacks have really been very upgraded during the last year. But of course, the resolve of the forces and the community has come out very strong. With this, I think that within the Pakistan, we need to have more vigorous political, civilian, and the establishment and all the sectors together collaboration that can be for the long run rooting out the sources of terrorism within the country. In this, of course, the role of our neighbors is very important, specifically the Taliban regime that is in Kabul, and also the other stakeholders that are acting through the Kabul, through the non-state actors infiltrating into Pakistan. So in reality, what I see is that Pakistan terrorism is such something that it should be seen in a holistic manner. It is not something that Pakistan has its own origins and Pakistan can manage it its own. Pakistan is very much up against it, but we need to collaborate with the neighbors, and the distant neighbors need to understand that if there is an issue of non-state violence in one country in the region, it always has a capacity to spill over into the other parts. So at this point, I feel that Pakistan is going through a very difficult phase. We are in a phase of economic recovery, and we need to have more internal stability and political reconciliation. And as you have said that, I strongly believe, despite the political differences, all parties across the board will come together on this very issue of defeating terrorism to its core.
Of course, very articulate. General Zahid, of course, when we talk about this issue of the security issue, and we know as Pakistan's Interior Ministry, Pakistan's security forces, they have time and time reiterated upon the Afghan authorities to take action against those hostile elements. There's been incidents in the recent past as well where Khawarij were neutralized trying to infiltrate into Pakistan using the Pak-Afghan border. And this continues, of course, as Pakistan continues to thwart these attempts. And you also mentioned in your previous answer that one of Pakistan's neighbors, of course, one of its arch rivals, India, it has been involved in using neighboring countries to create destability in Pakistan. When we talk about incidents like that of Mubarak Hussain Patel, as it is also on record. How do you think, of course, this could be stopped with regards to all the cooperation that is going on in the region, with regards to connectivity with the Central Asian states, with regards to the development that Pakistan is focusing on itself, and of course, the regional picture at large?
Well, Rafae, we need to understand that, there's a lot of debate going on on this topic of our relationship with Afghanistan. You see, state of Pakistan is very clear that, we have only one demand from our Afghan brothers. That is, don't let their soil be used by these fitna al-Khawarij and all those elements who are harming Pakistan. We are asking nothing more than that. They are an independent country, they are a sovereign country. The circumstances, everybody understands those circumstances from where this government has been established. So they have not come through a popular democratic process, but this is none of our problem. If the world is ready to work with this de facto government, so we don't want a de jure government. So we are also ready to work with them till the time this government is serving the people of Afghanistan first and the people of Pakistan then after Afghanis, you know, because they are the biggest sufferer. So our only demand is they can have relationship with India. For me, I don't like seeing everything through the prism of India, you know. India is design about us. Alhamdulillah, Pakistan is a sovereign country. We also have a design about them. We can defend ourselves. We can defend our sovereignty. Right. We can defend our borders.
Right.
We can defend our, you know.
Right, definitely.
So we have no issues. So the only demand is that don't let your soil be used.
Definitely.
They treat, you know, they treat the Fitna al-Khawarij, the TTP Pakistan under their Pakhtun Wali code. You know?
Definitely.
But once it comes to Pakistan, this Pakhtun Wali is missing. So this is their choice.
Definitely.
And unfortunately, we may speak later in this program about what all has happened in the past. This is not a new phenomenon, to be very honest. Afghanis have always looked toward us once they're in trouble, once they're in hot
and
water.
Pakistan has always supported them, of course.
Unfortunately, we are an emotional country.
Yes.
And we respect our brothers, and we are the biggest sufferers. We have suffered the most. We have sacrificed the most.
Definitely, sir. I'll include your comments again as well. But before that, Dr. Shafqat, of course, what are your comments with regards to, of course, Pakistan has time and time reiterated upon the Afghan authorities, of course, how the Afghan soil is being used for militancy by these hostile elements is in itself a violation of the Doha Accord that the Taliban regime is a party to itself, the international commitments they made, the international promises they made, and of course now the international pressures that they have to face with regards to them not upholding those commitments. When we talk about the situation with Pakistan, of course, cooperating on the security front, as Pakistan has said time and time again, wouldn't it be a win-win for the Taliban regime itself, considering the criticism that they're facing from the international partners?
I think win-win for them is that they should behave as a force, a force in the region, and win-win situation for them is they behave politically. They should not have this sort of behavior which is against their promises, be it the bilateral, be it the regional forum. You know, one thing I want to explain here is that Pakistan is not taking tough stand with the Taliban. Pakistan is just asking them, one that General Zahid has said, that don't interfere or don't allow them to be use their soil for them. Second, what our demand is that they should not support them in the interest of the region, in the interest of the peace, even within Afghanistan. Now what is happening? All these Fitna al-Khawarij, they are not only troubling in Pakistan, they are troubling, some elements are troubling in Central Asian part, some are troubling in Iran, some are irritating China. So these elements are operating from Afghanistan. So that's why it is not even in the interest of Afghanistan and their stability to speak about their own security thing, to harbor them or support them or even allow them or and keep silence on their actions. So that's why Pakistan still says and wanting them to be part of the process, to be part of the regional activities so that they can gain their political space within the region and globally. But I think this point is not that they are not understanding it. They might have understanding about Pakistan's this soft kind of action and only kinetic action against targeted places or intelligence-based thing. Pakistan is not coming hard on Afghanistan as with full force, which Pakistan has the right or reserves the right to do. But still, we have the feeling that they are our brethren and they should come to us instead of being played by a third power. So that's why somehow they have to have wisdom coming to the table, coming to Doha or even Beijing or even Moscow process, wherever if you refer these things, they have a space only when they have a political space to be gained through their peaceful gestures. The problem is because within Afghanistan, these rug elements, those who are Fitna al-Khawarij troubling in Pakistan, they have somehow in the control of the weapons which the Western allies forces have left in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And they are holding them. And there is a fear that somehow they have a grip over certain Afghan Taliban leaders. Those they feel threatened that if they will not be soft on them or hard on them, then they have their reaction within Afghanistan. So to avoid that kind of reaction within Afghanistan or the ranks of the Taliban, that's why some pockets in Taliban, they are silent on the issue. Some are not having courage to speak against them. But my point is that if they decide to fight these elements, then certainly they have a global support. Pakistan would be the biggest among them, even Western powers and other countries, and so to speak, China and Iran. They can also have an edge, support for Taliban. Now Taliban has to decide either a political course of action or just the action they are doing it. Because the way they are doing it, they are not getting political space. And that is why so many years has gone, they are still in isolation. They are only a group of fighters. They don't have legitimate right to be the real ruler of Afghanistan. But they are holding it. But ultimately the time will pass, and then within Afghanistan, that there will be situation arising, then their rival would be in a position to fight them back.
Definitely.
So within that, so my analysis is that if Taliban are not understanding this space issue, then they will continue to lose their political space.
Definitely. General Zahid, what would you have to say, your comments about what Dr. Shafqat's analysis was? And of course, as we're talking about the Taliban regime, the commitments they made during the Doha Accord, the international cooperation Pakistan could seek, of course, because the Taliban regime is not upholding those international commitments. And secondly, of course, you mentioned in your previous answer that you do not like to see geopolitics in the prism of the Indian landscape, but there's another element, of course, with regards to the politics that we're seeing internationally. The Indian involvement in extrajudicial killings on foreign soil, it's also being called out by its own strategic allies. Do you think at this time when India is facing the hot waters, it is time for Pakistan, as Pakistan has been raising these concerns since a very long time, these are the times when Pakistan could actually capitalize on the concerns and issues that it had been raising for such a long time, and the world community to actually take cognizance of that?
Rafae, in fact, once I speak about I don't want to see things from the Indian prism. I just wanted to, my purpose of this statement was that, look, we should not be, it's not time for the witch hunting. We have given the dossiers. Every body in the international, community, they understand what India is doing. So Canadian, their involvement against the Sikhs in Canada, United States, Australia, UK, but they're acting as a watchdog in the Indo-Pacific strategy. So there is an acceptance. The United States courts have implicated India, and Amit Shah is also implicated in that. That he was leading all these operations against the Gurpwant Singh, and what all has happened to Niger and Bishnoi gangs. Use of the Bishnoi gangs, and then the nickel. And I'm not confirmed, but we have information that probably the foreign minister was in, he was in United States, and before Trump taking over the office, they have brought that nickel who was, arrested, and who has given a lot of evidence about the involvement of Amit Shah and his party and his use of these gangs and murder, So they don't want to get into that pressure. So see, everybody understand what India is. Today, the biggest dilemma of the international community and especially Pakistan is to deal with the new mindset in India. That is the Hindutva mindset. We have been trained, being a military, to fight Indians for last 40 years. Now we have last 77 years, But now we have to carve the strategy to fight this new mindset. All right. So as a Pakistan, this is our big challenge, and international community very well understand. Now the Bangladesh is suffering, the Maldives is suffering. Sri Lanka has been suffering in the past. All its neighbors are suffering because of this hegemonic and Hindutva mindset, hegemonic attitude and Hindutva mindset in India. India, of course, their interest in Afghanistan is very clear. They want to wage this proxy war through the soil of Afghanistan. So they, being the sponsor of this war, they have found very good clients in form of the interim government, in form of the TTPs, in form of the BLAs, BLF. So they have a lot of clients, and Pakistan will be victim. But again, I say that Pakistan will be able to deal with all this. Pakistan military will always maintain the escalation ladder, rather they will go above the escalation ladder whenever there'll be, but we need the political approach, better political approach, better foreign diplomacy, and very good diplomatic maneuvers, then the socio-economic development. So we have to put our house in order first, and then we will be able to deal with all this menace.
Definitely. Putting our house in order. Dr. Shabana, I'd like your comments as well. So far as the conversation has shaped up, of course, when we talk about the regional situation in light of the security dynamics, we know how there's India's hegemonic designs, Afghanistan soil is being used, actually exploited. Of course, there's regional organizations like the SCO which have systems like the RATS in place as well. Do you think they should be more active and take cognizance of what is going on in the region with regards to the security dynamics?
Yes, I think you have raised very, very valid points. Regional cooperation, as I've said, that integration is one of the ultimate way out that one can have the proactive or a holistic counterterrorism policy from Pakistan perspective, from the regional perspective, and at the global level. I've done some research on Shanghai Cooperation Organization and specifically the RATS, that is the Regional Anti-Terror Mechanism, that's primarily put up by the China, Russia, and other Central Asian. Pakistan and India both have become the permanent members of this organization. And it is also very interesting to note that through SCO and through RATS, some sort of understanding has been achieved between the adversarial state regarding the multifaceted threat coming from terrorists. I give you one example that I think it was 2 years earlier that Pakistan and India both, participated in the Indian Ocean exercises in the ocean on maritime terrorism, counterterrorism exercises. So this is another way, an informal confidence building measures that these forums provide. Having said this, to say that are they the ultimate answers? Is meeting on the sidelines of the SCO, is meeting on the sidelines of the UN Security Council between any states, leave India and Pakistan, even Iran or US or others, the counterterrorism will shape up in a very vibrant way. I think that is a very far-fetched point given the reality of the world where we live in. So point to ponder is, from my perspective, is to have a counter-terrorism policy. We need to have a counter-violent extremism policy side by side. In this case, the Pakistan adopted the National Action Plan after 2014 incident of APS. It is again been revised, some clauses in 2021. And if you see the reports, there are the gaps in the implementation. On the force side, we are very much up to the mark, but on the legal sides, on the reform sides, although on the financial sides, I think Pakistan has achieved the maximum points. But on the education reforms and institutional capacity building, and also the other measures that, like for instance, in the digital sides, we really need to work hard. And once we have within our house, we have the best of the best policies that are taking the state and society together. Only I feel it is only through that we can be able to achieve a maximum result versus the irredentist claims, whether they are coming in the form of the ethno-nationalism or in the form of the sectarianism or in the form of the from outside like Khawarij and other form of organizations.
Definitely very important points, and of course definitely food for thought. Dr. Shafqat, how would you comment on, of course, this regional approach towards, of course, addressing this security challenge that is not just affecting Pakistan but all the regional players, as there's so much effort going on for Central Asian connectivity?
I think regional connectivity is important, and for this region to progress is that it should be more coherent, it should be more connected, and that's why the SCO was expanded. When in South Asia the SAC could not work, then there was discussion about the alternate regional solution. So then when SCO plus was started and extended, and Pakistan, India, and now Iran and other joined it, so that at that time also the number one issue was instability in Afghanistan, and that is actually making this situation in the region worse. And very much, if you look at the deliberation of SCO so far, terrorism has been on the top agenda points in the SCO's discourse, and that is still there. But India was using this as propaganda against Pakistan. But actually, when Moscow process was there, and Taliban were invited there, when Beijing process was there, again the regional players were involved in, and they wanted them to be part of the process. But still, the issue is that only India. That's why we cannot ignore the India factor. If all the region, starting from Pakistan, Iran, Central Asia up to Russia and here the China, if that region goes strengthened, then certainly where would go the Indo-Pacific strategy of US, where India is a player, India is a ally of US. So that's a big game plan, and that is why this region is unstable, because of only one entity, which is Afghanistan. And that's why regional solution lies in it, that all the regional forces should sit together. They should think that if India is taking one position, then others can join hand and can negotiate with the Taliban groups. I know from my analysis, Beijing has influence over certain groups of Taliban. I know Russia has some influence, and still Pakistan has, Iran has influence. So all these countries in the region should sit together and evolve a mechanism, even if it is outside SCO. SCO, because when SCO, India is part of SCO, then maybe situation is different. But minus India, if the whole region has another side mechanism, that's my hope and assumption, then I think there would be a better regional solution.
Well, all fingers are pointing towards one spoiler of peace in the region, of course, without taking any names. Dr. Shafqat, do you think human resource development, as you talked about, when we talk about terrorism in Afghanistan, it's an issue that has been prevailing since long. Do you think a more non-kinetic approach, such as human resource development for the Afghan people, could lead to a rather decline in them being recruited for such militancy?
I think that's a very important area. Two things. First, I will talk about within Pakistan, where the recruiting still goes on. And second part is the human resource development in Afghanistan to counter these things. In Pakistan, still, the ideological allies of Taliban in Pakistan, they are still providing the breeding ground for the extremist elements. When we talk about extremism or terrorism, even before that, it starts from sort of a narrow extremism. Then it comes to extremism fast. Then it comes to violent extremism. Then it transforms into terrorism. So that's why Dr. Sahib rightly mentioned that we should have a separate strategies and policies to deal with them. So as a counter violent extremism measures, we should have softer stands taken up. For example, in the communities where we should have an analysis from where people still are going to Afghanistan for fighting in the name of so-called jihad, and which is for us is fitna. Why they are going there? Which routes are being used, and which segments? Those are cousins or ideological allies of Taliban. They are sending them, and they are receiving and nurturing, training them. That is one part. So we have to again come to the communities where from these elements are going to work with these communities. Secondly, part of development in Afghanistan, of course, Pakistan has developed hospitals, schools, and many other development projects Pakistan has launched there as a goodwill gesture. Pakistan is still working on that. That's why we have still, despite non-diplomatic, formal diplomatic, but we still have, presence there. Their visas are issued to thousands of Afghan every day for health reason and for many other reasons. So that's why Pakistan has opened this channel as well. Now, for them to respond to the Taliban, I mean, at least they should have a gesture to show that they also want some sort of development. I would quote one example. Only recent 2 days back, there was a conference of Islamic countries on girls' education. The leadership and the all consensus in the conference was that Taliban should give space to women or girls to get education. so that they can be part of the society. If these kind of soft measures if they take, Pakistan can even fight their case as well globally. If they are coming to this political space. Again, I am coming to that part which I earlier said. They still have political state, but it is slipping from under their feet if they are not paying heed to these opportunities.
Definitely. General Zahid, of course, in the past we have seen, of course, how there were hostile elements, but they, of course, they laid down their weapons, and of course they were streamlined into Pakistan's national process. Examples like Gulzar Imam Shambe and of course others who put down their weapons and accepted the ideology and the constitution of the country. When we talk about human resource development, of course, when we talk about the security situation internally in Pakistan, as we have been raising this issue since a long time, the insurgency, the rise in these insurgencies that we've seen, they're mostly being done by the TTP from Afghanistan. Of course, there's hostile elements involved behind that as well. I'd like your comments on that as the conversation has shaped up. And secondly, there's another issue that we face in these digital times. That is of misinformation and disinformation and what analysts are calling as digital terrorism. Of course, as you mentioned in the start, in these modern times, we're seeing hybrid and 5G warfare. How important do you think it is critical to address this issue as well, because of the propaganda that we're seeing in Pakistan, how aggressively it is being propagated, and of course, it is a menace in these modern times?
Rafae, look, today we are confronting two different threats, once we talk about the threat in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, so these are the people with their fake and charade ideology of Islam, they want to change our way of life in this part of Pakistan, and they understand that the people in these areas, people from these areas, they are little religiously more motivated, all right, and then it has a linkage with the past, with lot of design. These terms like TTP and HTS, and there's a design behind these, coining these terms, and and then there is a complete policy of radicalization, recruitment, all right. So these are not ordinary minds behind these forces. There is a brain already involved in this. So we need to have a super strategy in this part of, and then in Balochistan, you have already spoken about the insurgency. So they want to alter our geography, and so they have their different. But again, both the inimical forces in both provinces, they are available to our so-called very good friend neighbor India as clients. So they are using them, So we need to have a super strategy, and this strategy is military as all. I myself being a military guy, I totally understand that military is only 40% of the strategy. So we need to have social scientists, we need to involve the elders, the political leadership of provinces, of the regions, of the areas, we have a very strong system of this jirga. We have the traditional systems. So we have to involve each and every system which is available to this state. So it has to be a whole of a nation approach. That's where the whole of a nation approach comes. Maybe the social scientists, maybe the political leaders, maybe the religious leaders, all right. And once we talk of the madrasas and all that and radicalization, 90% are doing a very good job. So mainstreaming of those madrasas, especially those elements who are little allergic to this mainstreaming, they have to be made understand that everything belongs to the state of Pakistan.
Definitely.
If we have a state, we'll be able to pursue our objectives, maybe in the social fields, maybe in the educational field, in the religious fields, in the military and all political fields, So we need to have a strong state to pursue our objectives while remaining within our own objective strategy. So this has to be understood. So we need to carve a whole of a nation approach with the political leadership. Everybody has to be involved, and especially I always advocate the involvement of our students and our youth. They must understand what is the threat, what is the hybrid application. This we are talking about the extremism, we are talking about the terrorism. So these are now parts of this hybrid war. You have already spoken about the disinformation. So this is part of that strategy. Disinformation is one part, So there is a deniability about the operations. So we have in the recent past we have seen the disinformation lab. Whole thing is in front of us. So the purpose of this disinformation is to create chaos in the minds of the people of Pakistan, so their will is undermined and their hope in the state is undermined, and create a rift between the armed forces and the people of Pakistan. This is the element, which the structure of the peace and war is based on only one element, and that is the collaboration between the people and the armed forces of the country, and that is the target. So the larger scale of the application has to be understood. This terrorism is one part, very small part of this whole application, which is against Pakistan. So this solution is not lying with one institution or lying with one segment of the society. So even every parent, every house, every citizen of Pakistan will have to be part of this counter strategy to overcome all the problems which Pakistan is facing. And hopefully, inshallah, like the meeting yesterday which took place in Peshawar, where the army chief and all the political leadership was sitting, this can be a starting point, So we can forget about our political differences, we can forget about our sectarian, our differences. Most of the problems, like in Kuram, this was an administrative problem.
Yes.
And you see a lot of external forces, they get involved, and then whole thing is hijacked.
Propaganda.
And then yes, so don't let these are the loopholes which have to be covered. Don't give chance to those forces, external forces, to take advantage of this, So if there is some administrative, this is the responsibility of the local government, this is the responsibility of the provincial government, this is the responsibility of the federal government. Sit together, pursue your political objectives, we would like to have a strong democracy in Pakistan, because solution of every problem of Pakistan lies in the democracy, but the true democracy.
Definitely. Of course, we here at PTV World, we of course try to, shun this propaganda and provide verified news and content to all the viewers that are watching. Of course, that's a wrap-up of the Pakistan security situation. We are from Pakistan, and Pakistan from us, of course. And it's a collective approach towards a stable and prosperous Afghanistan. With that, I'd like to thank all of our guests, Major General Retired Zahid Mehmood, Senior Analyst, Dr. Shafqat, Munir, Security Analyst, and Dr. Shabana, Fayyaz, Security Analyst. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. That's a wrap-up from Views on News for today. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.